It's 6 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. First order of business is public comments. In accordance with the Open Meetings Act, directors are prohibited from acting on or discussing any new items brought before them at this time. Citizens' comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Comments about any of the agenda items are appreciated by the board of directors and may be taken into consideration at this time or during that agenda item. Please complete a public input form if you desire to address the board. All remarks and questions addressed to the board shall be addressed to the board as a whole and not to any individual board member. First card I have is Steve Baker.
Thank you. I'm representing Savannah Safety Committee. We meet once a month. Our ending agenda item is always what can we do to make Savannah a little bit safer. Had a great deal of discussion regarding infringement, especially right now, trees into the right of way that is unreached. And you have guidelines you've set up of 11 foot of curb, straight up, and 6 foot of the sidewalk. If you're over 5'10" and wear a hat, that doesn't work. Just a heads up. And I noticed there's several people in here that the 6 foot level are going to get anyway. I was hoping you could make a change to that. But my key question is, what are your levers for enforcement right now? We have that in the books. Told me that I've asked several times. But if something is overhanging, as it is, if patrols go through there all the time, I know there's some streets they avoid so they won't hit the overhang with their nice shiny cars. Kudos, now I do the same thing. And kudos to your department for supporting us tremendously at the safety committee meetings. Great benefit. But if we can give us a clue of what you're doing for enforcement, you can't spell out where the infractors are and what you're doing with them. That's a privacy matter. But the other piece of that is, can we, as citizens, vigilante? I've done this several times. I carry clippers with me when I walk the dog. And occasionally I clean trees and leave them in the yard so they can pick them up. I only say that out loud because I've never been prosecuted for it. I don't expect to be. And I'll quit doing it if you tell me to. The question is there anything the citizenry can do without causing a ruckus? I don't expect police to be out enforcing trees overhanging sidewalks. But I do expect somebody to stop blocking the traffic signs and the blocking sidewalks as well as the street lights. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Maggie Hernandez.
So I'm speaking about 3 different items. Number 14, I used to coach cheer at 3D Sports, so the predecessor 3D Sports. Echo some of what was said last month about the traffic problems. They're not new or exclusive to Arrowbrooke. We had them in Savannah, we had them in Duncan. No one likes that part, but many parents do like having affordable sports available to our kids. They're a selling point for these communities. So I encourage you to keep them. As for the bathrooms, parties, and such, not every situation that comes up is necessarily a failure of the board. It's a new district in the grand scheme of government overall. So we're using rules and policies that are going to come up as things occur. So the public just needs to have some grace. But I was disappointed to see that our president was unaware of the contract. I feel that should have been a little bit better prepared for that discussion. Item number 4, I've heard some complaints from some of my neighbors about not being able to get help from the district, and there's no GM report on the agenda. So yesterday I went to the district office in person to learn why, and I want to know who's managing the daily operations of our district. And why our general manager is not serving out the 60-day notice that you guys accepted at the special meeting just 3 weeks ago on the 30th, when we don't have a replacement. So the board has some explaining to do. I want to know why this is being kept from the public. Where's the transparency? So item number 22. I looked at the job posting and I see that the maintenance position is offering a range of $70,000 to $90,000. So here's the budget for 2023, during which time maintenance was a total of $42,000 for the year. Maintenance increased to $66,000 in the 2024 budget. For those who don't know, and members of the public, our maintenance vendor quit in April 2024. Ask them why. I want to make sure that the taxpayers are aware of this cost increase, and they don't have to take my word for it. The budgets and the job posting are both available on the Elm Ridge website, so they can see for themselves. District maintenance is line item 6185. As a taxpayer, I demand an explanation as to why our elected representatives believe that a significant increase for the same service is acceptable. I personally call that irresponsible, and fiscal responsibility was a top priority for me while I was on this board. Let me be clear, I have no interest in running again, but I will be here to hold you accountable anytime that you're not doing your jobs. I'm still a taxpayer, and despite how people in this community may have treated me during the election, because of some of you, I do still care about the well-being of Elm Ridge, and I want to see that things are being done right. And while some of you may not even know which agency governs you, I have them on speed dial. If you can't do your jobs ethically and do it for the good of the community, you don't need to do them. Great.
Thank you. We got one more, is an email that I can read. Are there any others that want to speak? Okay. This was emailed in. Good afternoon, Elm Ridge Board. My name is Laura Sanders, and I am just a plain ordinary resident of Savannah. My speaker card is in reference to agenda item 8 regarding greenbelt use of bat houses. While I do appreciate the benefits of having bats in Savannah to reduce the mosquito population, which is bothersome, I do wish to point out a few things for your consideration if you choose to allow the bat houses on your greenbelt and assume some responsibility. Bat droppings, known as guano, will be concentrated near bat boxes and are known to be toxic if inhaled due to the microscopic fungi known as histoplasmosis. So cleanup needs to be regular and may involve special services. Bats may enter neighboring homes, especially into the attics, so an education and assistance program to screen chimneys, windows, doors, and other openings should be considered. Bats may need protective measures put in place to reduce disturbances and vulnerability to prey. As bat populations grow, so does the noise. Pesticides and fertilizers should not be used near or around bats. And of course, the possibility of rabies, although that is a tiny percentage. Please know that this option has not been surveyed in Savannah, nor has this been approved by the board, although it has been brought to the board and tabled. I only urge you to reach out and gain more perspective and have those important conversations before making any decision on the matter. Thank you for your time. Kevin. Are there any more public comments? Have a motion to close public comments.
I'll make a motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 2, presentation of promotional swearing in.
Good evening, everyone. I have the privilege today of promoting 2 of our officers. Before I do that, though, I do want to do a shout out to Captain O'Brien. Where'd you go? There she is.
I'm in the back row this time.
That's made you know this is her last board meeting with us. She's taking a chief's job out in West Texas. I told her that's a bad idea, but so thank you publicly for what you've done for us, and good luck on your next adventure. Kyle Meyer, come on up. All right, Kyle, give me a very short bio. Kyle began his law enforcement career in 2018. He served in multiple roles to include patrol, road training, canine handler, criminal investigator. And he came to this department in 2023 in September. Well, you got the picture thing. Got it. Kyle also has a bachelor's degree from East Texas Baptist and holds an advanced peace officer license. He's also an instructor, a cybercrime investigator, and a mental health officer. Now, Sergeant Meyer went through a pretty strenuous sergeant assessment. I'm sure he would love to do it again, right? But through that process, he did rank number 1, and it's actually been a sergeant now for 3 weeks. Has been shadowing our patrol sergeants, learning the role, the differences between an officer and a supervisor. So, with that, we'll do your official swearing in front of everybody. Just like this right this time. Have a bad habit of hanging the wrong lines. So. All right, you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Kyle Meyer,
Do you solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the office of police sergeant
of the office of police sergeant
of the state of Texas,
of the state of Texas,
and to the best of my ability,
and to the best of my ability,
preserve,
preserve,
protect,
protect,
and defend the Constitution
and defend the Constitution
and the laws of the United States
and the laws of the United States
and of this state.
and of this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
One more call. No, not yet. All right. One more. I state your name.
I, Kyle Meyer,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I have not directly or indirectly paid,
that I have not directly or indirectly paid,
offered, promised to pay,
promised to pay,
contributed, or promised to contribute
or promised to contribute
any money or thing of value,
any money or thing of value,
or promised any public office
or promised any public office
or employment
for
for the giving or withholding of a vote
the giving or withholding of a vote
at the election
at the election
at which I was elected,
at which I was elected,
or as a reward to secure my appointment or confirmation,
or as a reward to secure my appointment or confirmation,
whichever the case may be.
whichever the case may be.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Now, Kyle's mother, Patty, will be giving his badge on. I'll tell you like I have everybody else, it's just go straight out. Oh, you practice? Oh, you practice? Okay.
There you go.
Go. Next up, Darren Smith. With Captain O'Brien, moving on. We went through a captain process as well. You don't see an external board comprised of captains and chiefs of our sister agencies. Darren went through that process as well as an external applicant that we brought in as one of our first group to go through. And Darren did so well that one of the captains of the local agency said if he was ever a chief, he would go to work for him immediately. So you're never going to be a chief with somebody. So I'll give you a quick bio. This is a little bit longer. Darren graduated from Collin College Police Academy in October of '91. He began his law enforcement career in March of '92 with the Collin County Sheriff's Office. In April of '94, Darren moved to the Allen Police Department where he spent the next 24 and a half years until he retired from there in November of '18. During his tenure with Allen, 17 of those years were assigned to the Criminal Investigations Division, where he gained a wealth of knowledge, especially in the narcotics arena and also general crimes as well. During that time, Darren was assigned to the Drug Enforcement Administration Task Force as a task force officer. The task force was developed as a strategic initiative involving federal, state, and local law enforcement to combat drug trafficking operations in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. On November 27th of 18, Darren, like many officers, decided he can't retire yet, came back into it, and began his law enforcement career here as a sergeant with the Elm Ridge Police Department. In the current role, Darren done patrol work. Darren's been here since the beginning of this. We've actually come on very close at the same time. So he's seen the goods and bads of Elm Ridge. The police department, as you know, has had its growing pains. Any new organization is going to have that. And I'm proud that Darren has stuck with me, hopefully, as we've done this together. So,
Well, the last two. The last two of the originals.
we're the last two. I think the last one was a single employee numbers. So, Darren is married to Melissa, and they've been together for 20 years. They have 4 children. Yeah, I'm sure Darren's happy they're all grown and out on their own. So, we'll do the same thing here. Raise your right hand, repeat after me. Use your glasses. I state your name.
Darren Smith.
You solemnly swear or affirm
You solemnly swear or affirm
that I will faithfully execute the duties
I will faithfully execute the duties
of the office of police captain
of the office of police captain
of the state of
of the
Texas,
state of Texas
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
preserve,
protect,
and defend
and
the Constitution
the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and laws of the United States
and of this state.
and of the state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
There you go. See how that word line you do?
Next time, I'll be better.
Next. All right, ready? Oh. Hopefully ball off. All right, I state your name.
Darren Smith.
Do solemnly swear or affirm
Solemnly swear or affirm
that I have not directly
that have not directly
or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or thing of value,
any money or things of value,
or promised any public office or employment with the giving or withholding of a vote at the election at which I was elected, or as a reward to secure my appointment or confirmation, whichever the case may be.
So help me God. So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
This one, he really.
I'll stab him.
Excuse us, we'll be back in a few moments.
Very good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm understanding that. It's like, taking too long, so I mean, that's probably.
Presentation from City of Aubrey Fire Department. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. I'm going to try to do this standing and just put my pages down. So happy to be here tonight. For anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Eric Slaughter. I'm the fire chief for the City of Aubrey. My presentation's fairly quick tonight. It's just an overview of our operation and our plans for expansion and things that we've done recently. And then I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have for me. So jumping in, the first slide is our mission and values. Our mission is very simple. We, the members of the Aubrey Fire Department, dedicate our efforts to provide for the safety and welfare of the public through preservation of life, health, property, and the environment. And our four key values are honor, humility, family, and integrity. The next slide talks about our organization and the number of positions we have in each rank. Fire service is a paramilitarily structured organization, so it's a pyramid shape. We have one fire chief, that's myself. We have one assistant fire chief, 3 battalion chiefs, those are the shift commanders or duty commanders. They're in charge on any given day. We currently have 8 captains. You'll notice beside that there's a red 11. We are adding 3 captains next month in preparation for the opening of Fire Station 3. Driver engineer. So the captain's the station officer. They're in charge of one singular shift crew at an individual station. Driver engineer is kind of self-explanatory. They drive the apparatus and then operate it at scenes. We currently have 12 of those positions. Station 3 will add 6 more and take us to 18. And then the firefighter rank, we have 18 firefighters. We'll be adding 6 more again with the opening of Station 3. Our functional divisions within our organization are the administration, which is myself and my administrative coordinator, operations, which is the assistant chief, battalion chiefs, and all the line personnel. EMS, we have an EMS captain that oversees a provision of EMS services. Fire prevention, which is a new division in our organization this year, with the creation and addition of a fire marshal within our department. And then this year, we are adding an emergency management coordinator, and they'll be coming on, and we'll have that division as well. The next slide are some stats. So this is 1 year to date from November 18th of this month. So back from there, 366 days, including the leap year. We have 43 sworn positions, 1 civilian position. Our calls for service in that 12-month period came up to be 5,776 calls. Our division of calls, we look at them fire versus EMS. EMS in any fire service organization today is the driver of our call volume. So our fire calls come up to 1,963 calls for service. EMS accounted for 3,800 of those calls. Our fleet currently consists of 2 engines, one at each station, one at Navo, one at Station 1 in Aubrey, 3 ambulances. We also have 3 reserve. We have 2 brush trucks, one at each station, a squad truck that has been purchased and is now in service, but it's for Station 3 when it opens. We're operating it out of Station 1 currently. And then another station that we call the farm that I'll mention here in just a little bit. We have 2 UTVs that we added into our fleet this year. One is an EMS UTV, so it has a bed attached to it for carrying patients. We use it for special events, football games, our festival. And then we have a second one that is a fire-based UTV, so there's a small water tank and a pump on it. It will be stationed at the Wind Ridge station once it's built, and it's to help protect our urban interface. So the area to the west that lines Arrowbrooke and Wind Ridge and Sandrock, all that floodplain area. So it can go where our brush trucks and our other vehicles can't go. We have a shift commander vehicle and then 4 administrative vehicles. Some recent accomplishments in the past year and this year. Again, we added the fire marshal position. The fire marshal is in charge of fire code enforcement, fire prevention, public education, anything that we can add to that plate. So they do a lot for us. The gentleman's a lifetime Aubrey resident, so he has a very unique understanding of the area. His family's lived here for, I think, well over 100 years. So he's a great addition to our department. We will be announcing and looking for an emergency management coordinator in the coming months. This last year, we added electric vehicle blankets. So electric vehicles create a unique hazard when they catch fire. And one of the ways that you can assist in extinguishment are these very large non-flammable blankets that you just kind of cover it up, give it a little bit, and then finish it up. It helps contain the fire, but they're very specialized. They're expensive and very, very heavy. So we bought a couple of those. We've got them in service. We haven't had to use one yet, thankfully, but I don't think it'll be long. IV antibiotics on the EMS side. We added Cepapine to our list of medications that we carry on the ambulances. So there's 2 real scenarios where we give it in the pre-hospital setting. One is septic shock. Those individuals are very, very sick. It's a systemic infection, and there really is a real line connection to how fast you get aggressive fluid resuscitation and administration of IV antibiotics and their possibility for survival. So the faster you can get fluid in and IV antibiotics started, the more likely they are to survive the event. We've given this medication several times now with positive outcomes. We're very proud of that. We're one of the few departments in Denton County that carry those antibiotics. We added POCUS to our ambulances last year. That's point of care ultrasound. So it's a very small ultrasound device. It helps us diagnostically pick up heart tones. So when somebody's very, very sick in cardiac arrest and we're working on them and we think we've gotten a return of spontaneous circulation, we can use this device just like an ultrasound for a baby, but we're looking at the heart. Or in traumatic scenarios, we can look at the abdomen and determine if we have some internal bleeding in certain areas. And then we can also go so far as to confirm breathing tube placement, and we can use it to assist with IV insertion. So in bariatric patients that are very, very large and you can't really see the veins, we can use this device, and it's an ultrasound. You can see the veins, and it helps guide the IV insertion. Those have been a game-changing device that we use pretty regularly. We wanted to focus this last year on some non-opioid pain management alternatives. So we carry pain medications in the ambulances, morphine, fentanyl, several others. But because of the addiction rate of those medications and propensities, we like to have other alternatives. So in this last year, we added IV Tylenol, which doesn't sound like a heavy hitter, but in IV form, it's very effective. And then we just recently added droperidol, which is another non-narcotic analgesic. So it helps with pain, but it doesn't have those nasty side effects that some of the other opioids have. And then we recently enhanced our ventilators. We got new ventilators. We bought 2 of them, and we're getting 6 more. And they're, in the old days, the ventilators were just rate and volume and nothing else. These are much more sophisticated. We can do a lot of work to help somebody who's either having trouble breathing or is in that cardiac arrest state where we're trying to work very hard to save their lives. And then upcoming on the horizon, we have ordered our cyano kits. This is an antidote kit that is the antidote for cyanide poisoning. Cyanide poisoning is the leading cause of death for smoke inhalation. So if you have severe smoke inhalation and you go into cardiac arrest, most likely you have cyanide poisoning because it's included as a product of combustion for a lot of our new fuels that we face when we fight fires. And then the one that I personally am most proud of is we are going to start carrying a blood product in the summer of 25. So we're preparing everything that we need to do to add that to our fleet. And most likely it will be whole blood, and we will carry it on our ship commander vehicle so that it can go in any location it needs to go. It's not on an ambulance that's on a call that doesn't need it when it's needed somewhere else. So this is, again, another huge game changer in our life-saving ability for traumatic injuries, internal bleeding, and a couple other unique situations where we can administer it. We will be one of, I believe, 3 agencies in Denton County that carry blood. So there's a big need for it, but it's very tricky to carry. There's a lot of regulation in what you have to do, and then it's very, very expensive. So we're getting a grant to help us with some of the onboarding of it, but then we're ready to absorb the operating cost to carry it because we believe it's going to have that big of an impact. And then, as a side note, very cheaply, we can have blood donated and banked for us. So we'll be asking all of our service area residents, if they do donate blood, to please donate on our behalf, and then we get credit for whatever unit you donate, and then we don't have to pay. And it doesn't matter what blood type you are. We will carry O negative, but even if somebody that's A positive goes and gives a unit of blood, but they say they want to donate on our behalf, then we don't have to pay for our next pint of blood we have to pick up. So it's a great program. We'll rotate out our stock with the hospital. So before it goes out of date, it goes to the hospital and gets used so that we're not ever wasting a very precious commodity. So those are things that are coming up. And I think the reason I added this is I wanted to demonstrate that we're committed to getting better and stronger every single day. Our crews work tirelessly to learn these things. We have several things that we want to add, but we're timing them out so that they're wins. It takes a lot of training, a lot of learning. If you go too fast, you can mess it up and it not be a success. We're kind of adding 1 or 2 things a year on the ambulance side just to up our game. And then on the fire side, we've gone a little bit quicker to get up to what I believe is a top tier organization. For 24-25, our operating budget for our department is $8.8 million. The next slide, I broke down some of our stats and wanted to talk specifically about Elm Ridge and Arrowbrooke and Savannah's calls. So in that same time frame, so from November 18th, a year back from there, we answered 743 calls for service in Elm Ridge. 267 of those were fire calls, 476 EMS. If you break that down further to Arrowbrooke and Savannah, 235 total calls for Arrowbrooke, 511 calls for Savannah, and you can see the same breakdown. It's really most of the time it's a 60-40, 70-30 break between the call types. So that's the call volume here in Elm Ridge, 743 calls annually, and it stays fairly consistent. Station 2, the NAVO fire station. staff. So calls for service in that same period of time, 3,524 calls for service. And so then I broke down kind of the key areas that they respond to, the key drivers of calls for that station. Paloma Creek, 1258, Elm Ridge, again, 743, Providence Village, 593, and then Silverado, Aspen Meadow, 532. I put an asterisk beside Paloma Creek, Providence Village, and Silverado, Aspen Meadow, because those calls are coming off of the call load for Fire Station 2. So as of December 1st, Paloma Creek will begin being served by the Little Elm Fire Department. Providence Village, Silverado, Aspen Meadow. In January, those calls will start to be answered by crew at what will become the crews for Fire Station 3. So Station 3 is not completed yet, but we're operating out of a building that Providence Village is letting us use. And so we already have a third ambulance up most days. We'll be bringing the squad up staffed also, and those calls will begin to be answered by that station. We call it the farm. That drops the call load for Fire Station number 2 to an estimated volume of approximately 1,400 calls for 2025. That's what we expect. If you just go straight off the math from the previous year, it would be about 1,200. We do anticipate an increase in call volume. We've not had a year where we didn't have a decent increase in the last several years. Fire station locations, I'm sure y'all are familiar with this, but I wanted to go back over it again. So you skip 2 slides. So Fire Station 1 is in downtown Aubrey, is right off of Main Street, 200 Sycamore Street. At that station, we have Engine 1, Medic 1, Medic 3 runs from that station or the farm. The battalion chief, the shift commander's there. We have a brush truck there, and then all of our administrative and fire marshal personnel at that station. Fire Station 2, or the NAVO Fire Station, is at 2020 Naval Road. You are familiar with that location. And there's an engine, ambulance, and brush truck there. The engine and the ambulance are staffed all the time. The brush truck's only staffed if it's that particular call type. We have 2 new fire stations under construction. Fire station number 3 is at Frontier in 2931. It's that northern entrance into the Silverado community. It's well under construction. It's about 70 to 75% complete. I don't know if y'all have been through that area, but it's very much out of the ground. You can tell it's a fire station. Just a couple weeks ago, they got the moisture barrier on the roof, so we're now not in the dry, but we're getting closer. And then they're doing mason work right now, putting the brick up. So it's moving along very nicely. That building is roughly 16,000 square feet. About 13 to 14,000 of that is for the fire department. And then there's a police component there. Their criminal investigation division is going to operate out of that station as well. That station will have our new ladder truck, which should arrive in the spring, just in time for the station to open. It will have an ambulance, the squad. The squad is just a light rescue style vehicle, and its intent is to take wear and tear off of the ladder truck. So low acuity calls, medical calls, light wrecks, service calls will be answered with that squad instead of putting miles on the ladder truck. You don't know it, most ladder trucks get about 2 miles a gallon. The battalion chief will be moving to that station. That will be our centrally located station in our system, our coverage areas. So we're going to move them to the middle so that they can go either direction. I do think it's important to note that that's our shift commander, and that's a station that's not currently in our city. So that's the place for them to be. That's what puts them in the middle, gives us the best coverage of our area. And then the EMS captain's also moving to that location. The Windridge Fire Station number 2, this is the replacement for the NAVO Fire Station. As you're aware, we lease that building currently. We needed to put on city soil, so the decision was made to build a station in Windridge. The location is Winridge Boulevard and Aslan Circle. It's just right off of 1385. When you turn in, you pass Aslan, and then we're to the south side of Winridge Boulevard. That station is set to be completed in August and open in September. I forgot to mention Station 3 is supposed to open in June, be done in May, open in June. And again, for Station 2, we're just moving the personnel from the Naval Station to the Winridge Station and the same vehicles with the addition of that fire UTV because we'll have space for it then. And then lastly, on the farm, that's that temporary building. It's on Liberty, kind of south of, it's in between Silverado and Providence Village. And we operate an ambulance. And then next month, we'll be bringing up the squad there also. We are hiring the first 9 of our personnel for Station 3 start December the 9th. And then we'll hire another 6 in the spring and then the last 6 in the fall to get up to full staffing. The next 2 slides are renderings of the stations. So Station 3, this is the view from Frontier Boulevard, just off of 2931. This is the looking at the apparatus bays, and then to the left is the living quarters for the firefighters. Behind that is the addition for the police department. And then the next picture is the rendering for fire station number 2. This site had some challenges because of the size and area available. So it's 2 stories, which everybody's gonna like. It does have a pole in it. We'll probably use it for the first month until the workers' comp claims start rolling in, and then everybody has to take the stairs. But this station is 9,000 square feet. Again, has a small police component there. It's a report writing room with an interview room also included, so that the beat officer in that area has a place to come and do work if they need to sit down. This is a very long, narrow piece of property. You can't tell it from this rendering, but there's a park, a pavilion, and eventually a dog park all on this one particular strip. The park will be fire and police themed, so the playground equipment will be fire trucks and police cars and things of that nature. And I'm at 9,000 square feet for this station. The next slide is a coverage map. You may have seen this before. I don't think we've ever provided it necessarily in a formal manner, but we had this map drawn. This is the new Fire Station 2 location at Winridge and Aslan Circle. And the bullseye, you can see the legend. Green is a 1 mile radius, yellow is a 2 mile radius, and pink is a 3 mile radius. In very, very loose terms, 2 miles, or 2 miles is 4 minutes in the fire world. Now, the size of the street and whether you're taking right turns or left turns and whether there's red lights or stop signs, all those things factor into drive time. So it's certainly not precise. There are drive time applications where you can get a very neat looking polygon, but for broad applications, you want to be in that 2 to 3 mile range. It puts you in an accepted practice area for initial response. And so this demonstrates that both Arrowbrooke and Savannah will be well within those acceptable ranges. And with that, I know that was short and sweet and a lot of information, but I would very much like to answer any questions you might have about any of the information included or anything else. I'll do my best to answer anything you have. If not, I will certainly get you that information if I don't have it tonight.
Chief, thanks for the presentation.
Yes, sir.
What's going to happen to the 2020 NAVO decisions? Anything going to be left behind? Any extra equipment?
We don't own it, so we don't control its destiny. Our lease renews in September of each year. So I would think that we'll renew one more time, or at least negotiate a short extension of our existing year, because I don't know that we'll be all the way out on September 1st. But I can't speak to what the owner will do with it after the fact.
Chief, I had a question on the fire marshal. So we've been using Denton County for that, does that mean we would come to you? And I'm thinking of like the HOA, they do their fireworks event, the fire marshal has to sign off on that. Would that be Denton County still, or would that be you guys?
I think we'd have to talk to the lawyers on that one about authority. I don't know. In our city, we have the ability to adopt a fire code, enforce our ordinances. I would think certainly we have all those same. He's a peace officer, so he can enforce any state law. But we'd have to talk about the legality of, if it's a state rule, we could certainly enforce it if you want. But as far as code related issues, I don't know if we would have that authority unless we worked out an agreement with the Dayton County Fire Marshal's office.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question on the, one of the things you presented on new things you're doing, the blood, being able to carry blood. Less than 1% of all ambulance services in the United States carry blood right now, because most cities consider it to be an untenable cost. Because of all the regulations, training, in blood. So you have to currently, because the expirations on the blood, it has to be used. How is that going to impact costing long term?
I think we're set up. I don't have the exact dollars. We've been starting
because
to,
most cities have determined it isn't untenable. That's the reason why I'm asking.
That's one really big reason, but the cities that are set up to afford it, they also don't need it. So if you go south of here, most of those departments are close enough to a hospital that it's faster to go to the hospital than it is to do the things you have to do to start the blood and get it going. It's not a push and play thing. It's special tubing. It's got to be run through a pump. You know, you got to do a lot of work. So it's designed for outer areas. It's designed to get you to the hospital. If you can get to the hospital very quickly, then rapid transport is almost always the right indication. Stop the bleeding, give a couple of medications that support that effort, and then get on the road. So if you're in Dallas or Carrollton or Louisville or any of those other cities, you're generally close to a hospital. You just go to the hospital. I think that's probably part of it, because those are also the cities that could probably maintain those efforts. And rural organizations generally don't have the budgets to support that too.
This is what I was asking, because that's going to be a costing factor on things like contracts and stuff.
Sure.
You know, that's why I was kind of asking, because that and the IV antibiotics, there's a larger percentage of ambulance services, closer to 10 to 15% across the country do IV antibiotics, but a large number of ambulance services across the country don't do IV antibiotics for the very same reason.
Our IV antibiotic program is not expensive at all.
Okay.
Again, I don't have the exact number because I don't buy the medicines every week, but I want to say it's a couple $100 a dose. It's a powder. It lasts, I think, a year. We mix it before we infuse it. It doesn't require a pump. So it's much more doable. I would like to make one comment related to your initial comment in that it affects contract costs. That I would like to say that that's not really how we operate now today. So I became the chief 2 years ago. We've been working on every contract that we have for service. Every new contract that we have is simply a dollar amount that's predetermined over time. We don't ask for change it. Now, obviously costs go up, but every cost goes up.
Overall contract costs, not individually like add-on or stuff. It'd be individual. That's why I was asking, because those are a lot of ambulance service consider those to be expensive programs. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, they certainly are. It's supported through the RAC. They're looking for places to do it. We fit the bill because we have an extended transport time to hospital. So all of our patients generally go to Denton or Frisco. And then specialty patients will take to McKinney or Plano. And so for us in our service area, that's generally a 20 to 30 minute ride. And the further north you go, the longer that number gets. The hospital that's coming online in Salina Methodist, it's going to start small and get bigger. It's not going to be designated for trauma or anything like that initially. So while it will take our medical patients and things like that, it's not going to be set up to handle these very critically.
It's not set up to handle trauma patients.
Yeah. And then Aeromedical is a great option for blood because a lot of the helicopter systems do carry blood. Mm-hmm. But then you have to, we actually have in our protocol, it's a chart. And if drive time is X and call time is X, then it's a go, no go matrix basically. And so a lot of times, even aeromedical for us, we're close enough that we defeat the purpose of calling them. We can pass them and be to the hospital before they can land, get everything going, and fly back. So we do it when we have prolonged extrications, or we're very far north, or we have multiple patients, or we're going to overload one particular facility. We'll start to distribute our patients to multiple designated facilities. And so, yeah, so we've anticipated that. I don't have the hard numbers for you yet because we're not all the way in the business, but we've evaluated it to think that we can get in and sustain it. We don't anticipate asking anybody to help us in that venture, other than it becomes a part of our budget and that we handle it. But the way we've established our contracts, at least the recent ones, I've done 2 in the last month, and both of those, the increasing factors are based on CPI.
Okay.
And that's actually the 2 that I just did. There's 2 options. It's CPI or the fire budget increase, the lower of the 2 options. So if the fire budget increases by 3% and CPI is 2.5%, then they get the 2.5%. And those 2 contracts were Krugerville and Providence Village.
Do you guys have to have any special certifications for the antibiotics? Like, do you have somebody that's licensed, or do you call Rampart and ask permission, or how does that?
We don't have to ask for permission. It's in our standard operating protocol. So as long as certain things exist, certain vital signs and conditions are present, we can give it without having to ask. If we're right on the edge and we think they need it, but we're not hitting all of the required metrics, we call the doctor and he makes the decision over the phone and we proceed. We have very aggressive protocols. We're in the best EMS system. We have local doctors. I think it's 5 doctors that operate the best system. And our doctor is Dr. Maynard. He handles several agencies in our immediate vicinity, but they are very aggressive. We do a lot of things in the ambulance. I say we. The men and women of the Aubrey Fire Department do all those things in the ambulance, and I hear about them the next day when I get to work. But they are very aggressive, and we train a lot. We don't carry anything. Really, the only thing that we have that is specialty training based, so the things that certain members can do that others can't, are a finger thoracotomy. So we do needle decompression. Any paramedic that's checked off in our system can do those. But to do a finger entry, so you make an incision, use a device, and you make a hole to let out air or blood that's in the chest. You have to be checked off with that. So you have to go to the cadaver lab and practice with the doctors, and then you're checked off to perform that skill. But that's the only skill that we have that is dependent on whether or not you've been checked off on it. Everything else, everybody's universally checked off on. And we have to go through that. We have to train every month during the year. We have to take an annual exam based on our protocols. And then initially you have to go through a series of tests and then a series of scenarios with the doctor to be checked off. And it's his license that's on the line, so he's pretty thorough.
Nice presentation, Chief. Back to blood. This is kind of the topic.
It's not the questions I thought you were going to hit me with. So
Well, I got a fire question too, but so on the blood, how much blood do you need?
Generally, we'll carry 2 units.
No, for a year. How much will you go through? Well, we need to drive, right? We need to get. That's probably one of the biggest cost factor, I'm guessing, of the program is the blood itself.
I think it's more the equipment. Because everything expires. You know, even if it doesn't expire, somebody slaps a date on it so that some plastic piece of tubing is only good for 3 months, and you have to throw it away and buy another one.
Everything in an ambulance needs to be replaced. There's an expiration date.
Used to, that's not how it worked. There's like 5 things that had a date on it, but I think somebody caught on to the scheme of it. But the blood, I really don't think it'll be that big of a deal. We can keep it for a month. We go trade it in at the hospital. We get our new blood. We're only going to carry 2 units at a time. It's all you're really going to give before you can get to the hospital. And we can restock as soon as we get there. So there's really no need to have extra. So that's what we're going to carry. and then we'll just replace it as it's used, or replace it so it's never wasted. So in theory, 24 units a year, if we don't administer it throughout the month.
If I go to Carter, can I say it's for you guys?
I'll get those details. We'll have who the participating members are on where we can give to get the credit. Because we'll be dealing with either a pharmacy or the hospital. So everything we deal with are on those parameters. I would think one of the local hospitals that we're affiliated with will be who we will, they'll sub it out to us, but they use various centers in the area.
I'll be good for a couple of units of O negative.
I'm an O negative guy.
Yeah, they call
I have
me
to
all the
block
time.
my number sometimes. They call.
They light me up.
They're
Yeah.
like, hey, you got any more of that blood?
Fire calls. Is this 1963? Is that system wide?
Let me go back to that. Is that on that first
Stat
page?
page?
Yes, sir.
Calls
Now,
for service.
fire calls, that's a little bit deceptive because what we call fire calls is everything that's not an EMS call.
Yeah.
But that's fire alarms, rescues, wrecks,
Are
fires,
still
grass
fire calls.
fires.
So do you break it out? How many fires a year?
It varies from year to year. We had a slow year last year. I think we had maybe 20 to 30. I think in the high years, they were hitting 60.
1 a week-ish.
Yeah.
Fire, some
Yeah.
big, some small.
I mean, a lot of ours are driven by the storms. So lightning strikes. So especially in new neighborhoods, until the trees get taller than the houses, you have a lot of lightning strikes. Once the trees start to mature, then the lightning hits the tree and not the house, and it slows it down. You can kind of see that trend when you watch cities as they grow. The city I came from was in East Texas. There were trees everywhere. We had one lightning strike every 5 years. Over here, every time a storm blows through, a house gets hit, and we're making a call. So
This is all fascinating. I could ask a lot more questions, but I'll move it along. Anyone else?
How is staffing been? I know that's always been a question.
there have been lots of questions about staffing. Our staffing is set. So there is no varying of staffing. It's just a matter of how we staff. So we have minimum staffing. So each station currently has to be staffed with a minimum of 5 personnel, 3 on the engine, 2 on the medic. We don't go below that. If somebody's sick or injured or we have vacancies, it's just forced overtime. So we do voluntary overtime. We ask anybody if they want to work. That doesn't happen. Then the person who's working the spot today just doesn't go home. He has to stay and work another day. It's just mandatory overtime. So there's not a condition where we will not staff all of our seats that we consider to be our minimum staffing. So with each station having a minimum of 5, each station is staffed with 6 to cover vacation, sick leave, injuries, all the other things that happen. So, and then we move people back and forth. So whatever we need to do to make a day, if we have an extra at 1 and we're short at 2, then somebody drives over and works the shift. If we need more than what we have available, then we hire overtime. But our staffing is fixed. We don't fall below it. If there was some wild scenario where COVID 2.0 or MPOX or whatever the next thing's going to be, and we have to quarantine half of our department, then we would use a mutual aid partner to back into one of our stations. We do the same thing when we're going to be out extended periods on fire calls. So if we have a working house fire, we backfill our stations with other departments. So we're staffed even when we're tied up and not staffed. So I know there were things in the past that led to questions about staffing. I've been here 2 years. We've not missed a day of being staffed. We will not miss a day going forward. It's simply not an issue any longer. We're going to operate in a professional manner. Those are growing pains. There was some issues that were legitimate, but more than anything else, they were growing pains. We were much smaller then. It is difficult to grow, but we're growing very rapidly now. Fire Station 3 is coming online. We're adding 18 more people for that. We've got Fire Station 4's location picked out. We're about to start work on that. And 5 and 6 are at least located on the map. So we have no plans of slowing down. in our growth. So unless the economy completely tanks and nobody builds another house in Denton County, which I don't think is going to be the issue, we're going to keep growing, and I think we're going in the right direction.
What developments will you be servicing from Station 2?
So Station 2, when it's built, will serve this 1385 corridor. So if we're honored to continue to serve Elm Ridge, we would serve Savannah, Arrowbrooke, Wind Ridge, and Sandbrook and Duck Point are all on that 1385 corridor. And then, of course, there are additional resources for any other calls in the area. I'm certain that we will continue to assist our partners of all of our neighboring departments when they need our assistance. And if you look at that 1385 corridor in particular, is going to be just a monster corridor in Denton County. There's going to be tens upon tens of thousands of people that live on that road. And there's already planned to be 4 fire stations just on 1385. So there's currently a Salina fire station, our station's in construction, Pilot Point station is in construction, and Prosper has a station in planning. So 4 fire stations on one road, I think that tells everybody what we think of what that road's going to look like, because we're all managing our resources to manage what we believe are going to be our call drivers moving into the future. I gave you those numbers about Station 2 and the dramatic change in the call load because I hope that you see that suggests that we have capacity to very easily handle the calls that will come out of Elm Ridge. I think we'll be able to better handle them than we do today. 3,500 calls out of one station is hopping. They made 20 calls yesterday. I visited with some of them this morning, and they look like zombies. They got just beat up yesterday. It was pretty rough, and it's just a Wednesday. There was nothing spectacular about yesterday except for a lot of things happened. So, and you see that also. And so, not to point out any particular comments or things that have been said in the past, but these are all normal things. You get busy. You have to get busy enough to drive the need for another station. Stations are expensive. People are expensive. So you have to get busy enough to know that you can support what you're adding. Once you add it, everything calms down for a while. And then things continue to grow, and we're all going to get busier again, and the next station will come online and it'll bring it back down. It's like a saw. You're going to peak up on calls. Everybody's going to get works pretty good, and then we're going to add more resources and it'll calm it back down. And everyone in this industry is doing the exact same thing. They're growing very quickly, trying to manage their call volumes and load, and we all have to support one another because nobody can be ahead of the curve, because the growth is what brings the money in, that creates the calls, that creates the drive to have more resources, that pays for those resources and allows us to expand.
So do you think with having Station 2 servicing Duck Point, Sandbrook, and Wind Ridge, that would be comparable or less than the calls that are being answered now? Like the call volume?
It's absolutely less.
Okay.
That number, that 1,400 calls, that's what we anticipate our volume to be. Duck Point doesn't exist yet.
Okay.
It's approved, it's underway, but there are no homes. Sandbrook's still growing. Wind Ridge is done for the most. There may be a handful of lots that are still being built, but it's for all intents done. Arrowbrooke and Savannah are very nearing completion. So not a lot of dynamic expansion in those areas. Sandbrook is probably the most rapidly growing at the moment, but even they're just adding a couple of phases at the moment. They still have some land to grow more, but I think even in full development, and I think Duck Point, I don't know the exact number, I believe it's in the 400 home range.
Yeah.
So it's not insanely large. It's not a 4,000, 5,000 home subdivision. I think that's well within our ability to manage that corridor very well.
Okay. And then I know there's a lot of talk about Denton County having their own fire service. So do you have anything to say about that? Or how would that affect us, I guess?
Well, that certainly would become an option for you. I don't know what that looks like in this area. I can't speak to their plan. I didn't write it. I've heard the presentation that I've been given in a couple of different meetings, and I've heard some of the other presentations. But if they do enter into the fire service, then there's simply another agency that you could potentially use for service. I don't know where they would locate or how they look to operate, but they would simply be another player in the to speak. So another entity that provides service, you'd have to evaluate that service just like I suspect you'll evaluate our service and any other potential providers that you consider. But I would say that we certainly don't look to partner with them to negotiate on our behalf or some of those other things that they've mentioned. We're not looking to do that if you do the math.
And then what are your projected costs? Like, what would you be proposing for us?
I have provided Jonathan with a draft ILA that is simply just a stepping point to begin discussions if you want to discuss with Aubrey the potential for service. It would be way too early for me to say that number out loud, other than to say it's not $66. It's nowhere near that. It's much, much lower. But he has that. Our lawyer, I wrote it. It looks like another agreement that you currently have. It's very similar. You'll recognize it almost immediately. But again, it's simply just a device for us to begin the discussion if we're fortunate enough to have that discussion with you. And with that, I will say that we very much want to continue to serve the residents and guests of Arrowbrooke and Savannah. We've enjoyed our time so far, and we would very much enjoy serving you moving forward. Either way, though, we will always be available. If you choose to use another carrier and they need our assistance, we will provide so without hesitation. That's why we exist. Any other questions?
That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief.
You're very welcome.
For the consent agenda.
I'm wondering on the consent agenda, on the minutes, the date was wrong. It says October 24th. That should say the 17th. I don't think that it impacts the ability to approve the minutes that are presented because the minutes that are presented say the 17th. So that is a typo.
Director's question on the consent agenda.
All the red lines that were pointed out already been changed and updated.
Correct. Yes.
I think Lynn had given you a check to look at. It was a very small thing. That's the only question I had. It was like 20 cents off or something. So I don't think it really holds us back here. Mike, you look puzzled.
I think I'm good. I had a couple of small, nothing I need to address now. I'm good.
To accept the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 6, consider proposal for stormwater management program.
I think, Mr. President, item 5 engineers.
Oh, thought of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Already marked up for it. There she is.
Good evening, Mr. President
Good evening.
and directors, for tonight's engineering report. For item 1A, I'm happy to announce that all the work related to the 24 annual street maintenance is completed. And we are scheduling a final walk with the contractor. So hopefully next month we should have all the final pay applications and the retainage for your consideration, and we can close out the project before the year ends.
When's the final one?
We are here to schedule a date.
I'll send you a couple of notes. I got a couple of things to look at.
All right.
Okay.
On item B, C, D, I have nothing to report on those. And on E, I do have a couple of pay application, a change order, and a contract for your consideration and approval. The first on the list is a pay application number 9 for the Teal Parkway expansion in the amount of $19,485.52. The second is a change order number 4 in the amount of $9,751.62. And that's for a building of a retaining wall. Town of Prespa requested for a turn lane, which triggered the need for the retaining wall in lieu of acquiring additional right-of-way to make the turn lane work in the existing right-of-way.
Yeah, that seems like a little bit of a surprise, like a $10,000 surprise. Or we just have to accept it and approve it when something like that comes up? Was the turn lane necessary? How does?
It's something the town requires necessary, or determined later to be necessary.
Yeah.
That can happen sometimes. I think the point here is if the town is requiring it, then we really want the voice to do it. Here, the wall is, as Captain pointed out, a better option than trying to, work with the right of way. Excuse me, I have so much trouble with that right of way, rather than trying to acquire more. And so it's not out of the ordinary to see something like this as the project gets toward the end when people start to see it on the ground.
Okay.
And we do have the pay application number 4 for the annual street maintenance project in the amount of $73,896.21 to CI Pavement. And on the 5th one, we do have a contract for specialty land services in the amount of $50,000 to assist in the easement acquisition for the Upper Trinity District water line. We have been trying to coordinate with the property owners, and even though it's not a very tedious task, it's very time consuming. So we thought bringing specialty services on to assist with that will be very beneficial, looking at the timeline that we have to work with. Majority of the amount is for appraisals and title search if needed. So we may end up not using the entire $50,000, but if appraisal and title search are needed, then those dollar amounts will be utilized. If not, we will have a remainder after the acquisition is completed.
So I've been working on this. Reeves and Solana have been working on this for quite a while now. And we thought we could get it done. There's about 11 or 12 different pieces of property, maybe 13, that we need that go east of Arrowbrooke and then along the school road all the way down to that south station. And it just hasn't worked. We've run into roadblocks with multiple entities and companies along that little pieces of property area along that path. And so this is bringing them in that does land acquisition, condemnation if necessary. They will start the process where they get the appraisal, send the letter to the property owner. Here's our offer. We're exercising eminent domain if necessary to go through that process because we've gotten nowhere with it. There's, it's not only, there's issues with the school district, there's issues with the town of Prosper, and then our private property owners along that area as well. So, as Kevin said, they may not spend all of the money, but this is their estimate on the appraisal, do the offers, go through that process. Hopefully it won't cost that much, but.
So this is outsourcing that.
Yes. This is what this company does. And we try to get it done, but we just haven't gotten anywhere. Meeting with Solon, it's just something that to get and stay on the critical path timeline, it's being critical that we bring these people in now. We're not going to get where we. So.
150,000 sounds like a lot of money to me, and this is new. This is a big project. Is there any guarantee
Define guarantee. I mean,
that they can get it done?
Well, I mean, if they don't get it done, then you're bringing in counsel that does condemnation, and you're filing a condemnation lawsuit to exercise your eminent domain authority. We're trying to avoid having to do that. We won't surely not do that with Prosper. We're surely not going to have to deal with the ISD. These private property owners, it's a very, very small portion of land in some of these cases. And so it shouldn't be a big deal. They're developers themselves. So we're hoping that it's not an issue.
It's not Farmer John that's holding
No.
out.
It is some particular pieces of property that the ISD has sold to private developers. And so
is this the property though that they promised us the easement before? So don't they have to follow up with that? Shouldn't this be their cost?
We have, I have made that argument with the ISD, and the ISD is willing to do it. But now Prosper has come in and said, well, that hike and bike trail, we actually platted that. And so we're not really happy with what you're doing. There are other past issues between the district and Prosper, or existing issues that is holding it up as well, which we can talk about more if we need to later.
Yeah, because I'd like to, because I thought we had that all kind of nailed down in writing at one point, and so because of that, that's where my concern on this 50K is because we've had this in writing already from them before they even sold the property.
Right. Yes, it's not all of the track that we need, but that's a big part of it. And so that's the road that we're running into right now.
So this is just to go out and talk to people and make deals, right? This doesn't include anything that we would pay for easements or.
No, it is just, this is what they're doing. Their cost to provide the service to go out there and get the deals done and get this moving.
About how many private property owners are there?
I think it's 4 different ones. Yes, because you have the school road that comes from Arrowbrooke and comes down, and you have all of these little pieces of property, triangles that kind of butt up to that property. And so it may be this little tiny piece of that and piece of that, and it's not these huge swaths of land. So it's in small areas. It's like 11 different property owners, but up to that. We'll cover that.
Is there a way that we can push this to the end after we come out of executive session?
Yes.
I prefer so that we can find out some of the other stuff, that we push this to the back end after we come out. We push item 5 of the engineer's report until we come out of executive session.
I had a question about 1A, the Tilo Parkway expansion. For some reason, I thought we were done with that last month, and then now this is a 19,485 on top of that. So what are we doing here?
You thought the project was completed?
Yeah, I thought we had kind of settled the payment last month for that.
For what?
For the Tilo Parkway expansion, like we had pretty much.
There's payment applications that we pay each month as they get work done.
Okay, so this is an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
Right, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
if you look on the third page of the first certificate of payment, you'll see the original contract sum for that with the Venus Construction, and then kind of what has been paid today, change orders, what this request for is this 19,485, how much retainer is left. So you have out of the 513, looks like you have 133 left to finish, with 44 of that so far being retainage.
Got it. That's what I missed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Total projects, 513
Yes, sir.
total project. Are we on budget overall?
Yeah, I mean, this is a project that the developer is doing, that we will reimburse them for, in the future. And so the original contract was 513, and then with, I think, $25,000 in change orders, it's 539 now, with 450,000.
5% in change orders. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'd like to make, before we move on, I'd like to make a motion to pay applicant to, it is an approved pay application number 9, change order number 4, and pay application number 4. And approve those.
There's a second.
Can you say that one more time for me?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve pay application number 9, change order number 4, and pay application number 4.
Yes, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
On item number 3 for engineering project for Artesia water system improvement, we do have 95% plans submitted in August. We are still working with CCQ to get their approval, which we are anticipating may happen February of next year. So tentatively, we have the advertising scheduled for March of next year, and we plan on going into construction April of next year as well. And for the Upper Trinity District water line, due to the delays in acquiring easement, we plan on having plans completed and bidding in December of next year, and it should take about 15 months. So we will be wrapping it up the following year, which will be in 2026. And that's all I have for the engineering report. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, so 3A, water, that's the ground storage tank.
Yes.
Okay, and so we've got our plans, we're waiting on approval. Tentative construction April next year. Completion, time to complete.
It should be about 12 to 15 months project as well.
It will take 12 to 15 months.
Late summer of 26 for the tank. Okay. We try and get that done early before summer if we can, right? We thought we were just going to have one more summer without the tank.
Yeah, the CCQ approval is our is what's causing the delay down, but we are still working with them. They have had one round of review, so hopefully the next one, crossing fingers, will be the final.
Vote on the street maintenance pay.
No, you, that was approved in the, in Scott's motion. That's item number 4 on E.
Okay, so he included it.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the engineer's report with the exception of E5, pending further discussion in executive session.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 6, stormwater management program.
Yeah, so I had explained to you guys, back in, earlier this year, we had talked about, this requirement from the EPA on a stormwater, management plan. You do not meet the requirements of having your own stormwater management plan, but you are small enough to where you can slide under the TCEQ's general permit, statewide permit. But that still means you have to apply and submit a plan to fall under that TCEQ general permit. So I proposed this, or I presented it to you at the May meeting, or I can't remember exactly what month it was, but as you can see on the last page, the scope description of work, and costs, it's a pretty hefty price to both apply, prepare the plan, apply it, and then also manage it over the course of each year. And so we hadn't gotten or received any more bids on this or proposals. So I asked the board to wait until we could confirm that, this is actually how much this type of thing costs. And for another district, I did get a price because that district has an engineering firm that specifically does this. And that price was almost exactly the same. And so stormwater solutions, this is what they do. They are very prevalent down in the Houston area, and they're really good at what they do. And so if the cost is going to be similar across the board, then this is the one that I would recommend the board take into account. And I think we had this, we had talked about this during the budget time, that we were going to be incurring this price for the first year and then every year going forward. So this is one of those unfunded mandates that all of our districts are having to do, and so it's obviously not cheap.
22,500 is the total.
That's for the plan and for 1 quarter, and then you're going to have a $4,500 fee every quarter of every year.
I thought it was 25K. Okay,
so
that's about right.
So again,
it's more.
It's pretty intensive.
18K a year for the actual implementation. So,
right.
And then it's 18K for the plan.
And I actually had a call today with this other district that's doing it with their engineering. We're going through the requirements and how we're going to operate it in that district, and it's pretty intensive. And so we're going to start working through it. We'll definitely have probably a workout session where we have to decide how we want to meet some of the requirements that they have for social media, for community interaction, and water quality seminars, and
we'll have duties.
We will have duties, yes.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's even more intensive what I was hearing today than what I even thought, actually. So really don't have a choice. I think they renewed in September or October, and we have 6 months from that to get our plan in place. So this allows us to get that in place.
If you provide water, this must be done.
If you discharge water, surface waters of the United States, then this has to be done.
So this is a federal thing.
Yes. And so we're able to fall under the Texas Environmental Quality's general permit for the state because of our size. If we were bigger cities, they have to actually have their own permit.
I would make a motion to approve the stormwater water management program through Stormwater Solutions.
There's a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 7, operating report regarding the Artesia utility system.
Ladies on the board meeting. All right. Monthly report for October. The first page is the pump station, Teal and Harper Road, 19.9 million gallons a month. The second page is the Harper Road pump hours. The third page is the Teal Parkway pump station hours. The fourth page is the pump station pressures, feet, analyzer readings for the chlorine residual and pressures. The next 3 pages are your coliform required samples from TCEQ.
Third one, what was the failure?
The chlorine was there, it was present chlorine in the bottle. So I think the guys had used a bottle and they do expire. I guess they didn't catch the tag when it expires. So, but it was a chlorine present, so it's no charge.
Okay.
If we take a sample and we took it, the next day, I believe we're taking it on Central Garden. Yeah, next day.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then the next page was the generator report. The generator doing good. They do run their annual test every Monday. I know before Rob had left, he had approved the annual PM services for that. Did you get that in from all Trex? I'll email your copy as well for a quarterly. They come out for routine maintenance.
I think we voted on that, right? Didn't we vote on that?
I think we talked about doing it, and I went forward with a bid that's aligned as well. They 2 bids. They were cheaper. They come out 4 times a year, and they have to do a regular oil check, liquid check, and then coolant checks. They once a year do a full load test on those.
$5 generators, probably a good idea, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's the good, doing good, add some to the hours. They run about half an hour every Monday. They run perfect. They're full of fuel. So we're prepared for anything that does come up. Prepared. We have cycled them off the power. We walked out to the breaker power, generator fires up in like 2.5 minutes. It's pretty fast, pretty amazing. And it's power transfers in 5 minutes. And then the last 2 pages has the work orders, 2 check for leaks of the water division, 31 days of chlorine checks, 31 days of daily rounds, 2 pressure concerns, 2 pump station maintenances. It was actually 7 back T samples taken, not 6. I put up for that. The tank inspections didn't complete it this past Thursday for our annual tank inspection. We dove it, all looked good. I've got to put 2 signs on there. That's it. So we're at a confined space of all things. They missed it last 3 years, but this time they caught it. And so anyway, we'll get those put up this week. In meter division, there was 9 check for leaks, 1 door hanger left, 8 meter replacements. There were 216 rereads. About last time as well about doing a possible meter change out program, kind of get the board decision on that at some point. I was going to have our UB manager, Juan, come next month. If you might have more questions for him, he can kind of work that out for if you want to.
Yeah, let's get moving on that.
It seems like that's a little bit down, right? Do you know what it was?
It varies so much. Okay. And they determined that if there's a rain event before rereads and the rain covers the meter up, the signal can't penetrate because of weak battery. What seems to be is the main issue. They kind of diagnosed that part of it. So that we have learned that the rain event kind of hinders the reading radio.
Is there like a plan that you guys can propose costing on that as a part of, so we can budget for it?
Yeah, I mean, it would be really, Jonathan and the board, kind of an RFP and get, 8, 9 vendors together, and put together, you got to do a radio pop study, you got to have the square miles, you have the addresses of all that, the meters, size of meters, everything. I can get it for you, but the RFP will have them to do that part. To the proposition study of the radio tower, what costs are involved annually, yearly, monthly. Is there a per meter fee, to do that kind of system?
These meters won't have the flooded reread problem.
There's so many versions, if we do go forward that, I would ask an RFP that we have the meters raised to a proper level to where if any flooding does occur. Over the years, the boxes have settled. The ground moves, it shifts. It's the Texas clay, and the meter boxes just shift and settle down. Over time, from a low spot in the yard to a water meter, if you actually catch water and hold water. So, I mean, in that proposal, I would ask for all new meter boxes, with better sealing lids that aren't cracked and busted. How to actually raise it to the right grade, right level. And there's also an alternative to have an antenna on the lid to where it can't ever get underwater unless it's fully flooded. So there's several options.
There's options.
Yes, sir. Like in Savannah, we have we use aquametrics, and there's actually a radio on the meter box lid.
So that doesn't get mowed over or anything?
It's actually flush with the lid. So the lid is a recessed of I guess about 1/4 inch. It actually sits in that part right there. You can actually rub your foot over it and you can't do it. So there's no trip hazard or anything. So rereads, there was 41 new occupancy start reads, 1 non-panel disconnect, 14 non-panel reconnects, 14 service disconnects, 12 service reconnects, and then 1 verify meter endpoint data check. I know Lee, you sent me an email about the audit that was due. Listen, that 1 invoice, if you can get that to me, the one from August 24.
Okay. And was it in the staff computer?
I didn't see anywhere. I'll do for the August 2024 approved invoice, and I can get that audit sent into you Monday. So I get that. And then the tower got affected, so they'll get the bill should come for that by next month. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Questions? Thank you, sir.
Always thank y'all.
Thank you.
I have a motion to accept the water operators report.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the operator's report.
There's a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 8. Consider request from Landscape Committee of Savannah for district use of greenbelt for bat houses. So
I received a note from the Landscape Committee. They're not quite ready to present this, so I think we should just table this and come back to it at a later date.
okay. Item 9, approve a proposal for IT software and technology equipment, audiovisual systems for the new district administration building.
Do we need a vote to table that? Or
You can, you don't have to, but if you want to,
whatever's proper.
it's fine.
We usually don't for tabling.
If there is a opposition to tabling it,
Okay.
take a vote.
Okay.
If it's the board's, no one's gonna argue against it.
Well, I'm just curious, why would you want to table it? Don't you want to vote on this as soon as possible?
The bat.
No, the,
We're still talking about the bat.
we're talking about,
Yeah, the vet's table till they,
Yeah,
till
that's
they
fine.
come to us with what they
yeah,
want to do. I thought it's kind of an obvious thing. Okay.
yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah, no, we do want to, so now we're on to IT. Proposal for IT software and audiovisual technology.
Good evening, Mr.
Good
President.
evening.
You should have a template with the Granicus wagon information. Most of the details we went over last meeting. We actually, one of the things that we tabled for last meeting was just to ensure that we had the funding for this. A bunch of us have worked this, Lynn included, that we do have the funding for this if it's approved. So that was the big question from last meeting. We didn't want to push it forward until we made sure we had the funding for the new building. And this is the AV camera system for the chamber area. So that's all the stuff that we did the research on. Year 1 cost, if you add up pages 2 and 3, if my math is correct, should be $91,514.45. And then the second part of the proposal is locking in the contract for year 2 and year 3 software and hardware maintenance. As far as a budgetary standpoint, we only have to pay the year 1 upfront. And then moving forward, as part of the budgetary process, we would then budget the 21,132.22, and year 3 is 22,611.47. So as far as total cost, we're just looking at the 91,514.45 for this evening in this particular budget. And then when we start our budget process, we would then include year 2 and then year 3 budget year, we include year 3. But if we approve the entire contract, they'll lock that price in and we won't get the increase. And they've guaranteed us there would be an increase. They said they're running between 8 and 10% minimum on the increases. So we know on that 21,000 and the 22,000 that there's going to be a guaranteed increase. So, and obviously we would think we're going to keep the system for at least 3 years, probably longer, but they do it 3 years at a time. So, proposal would be basically approve year 1 cost for the new building to include the budgeting of years 2 and 3 for hardware and software maintenance. Any questions?
I did have a question. I think you mentioned this before. This is 15 meetings a year.
Correct.
If we go over that, then they don't do a per meeting. We have to go to the next package.
We have to jump to the 25.
25.
And on the original quote that we did, there is and it was on the OneDrive from last month, there is a little bit of cost increase. Obviously, year 1, we're not going to exceed that 15. I mean, there's from everything we can calculate. And then when we go into the budgetary process for 2025, we have that included in our documents already to say, we're going to pay for 15, but just be aware if we get to that point in 2026 where you may exceed that 15, then you would have to approve the change order for that or budget request. So, and again, it's 15 meetings, so the time frame does not matter. They don't care if it goes an hour or 12 hours. It just goes per meeting. So each date that you set.
If we do 25 one year, can we go back to 15 the next year?
You know, I asked that if there's a rollover.
Yeah.
They said no. Well, I'm sorry. Let me explain. Yes, you can re-sign the contract for 15 and go back.
Gotcha.
But if we pick 25 and we only use 20, you can't roll the 5 over. Because I did ask that.
Okay.
To see if we could go back. But no, yes, you can year to year change the contract. Because it'll be an annual renewal. And if we see when you do renewal, you'll change it back to a 15. And they may offer a different, number. For instance, the gentleman told me, Josh, said that this particular year, they just opened the 15. It used to be 25 minimum period. So they just opened up the 15. So they may make some changes where you can do maybe blocks of 5 or something. So you don't have to bump up as much. So they are looking at that as a feature. And he said that was because our original proposals too said Swaggit. Swaggit and Granicus are one and the same now. So Granicus purchased Swaggit. So that was the change of the going down to 15 was kind of a Granicus thing. They wanted to open
Is this acquisition a concern at all?
No, it's been an acquisition for well over a year now. So they're just now getting that branding done and getting the rest of that pushed out. So.
Timing, we talked, was a concern, and getting this kind of on their radar. Are we still good on timing?
We are very good on timing. Okay. Assuming it gets approved. If it doesn't get approved, we're very bad on timing.
Yeah, I make a motion to accept this proposal and fund the added 2 years as recommended.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
And then Jonathan, do we have Rick Perry sign now, or we go to the executive staff as far as doing the contract?
If you want to leave it, I can have it
Yeah,
signed.
we can use his copy. I think that'll come on table.
Okay, yeah, I'll have you sign it.
We'll make sure before you go in there. Yeah. So just the last page, you got to sign the contract and get it over to him. And he said also on this part, you know, we have to do on the purchase order deal, we can do for the hardware and that's only if you want to give them one. They don't require it as far as the contract signing. Okay. So. Anything on that? So your portion is the bottom here. Cool. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Police Department Chief's report.
Good evening again. We mentioned this last month, but I'll say it again. We were audited by the CJIS division of the DPS. It was successful last month, so it's important to know. Out of that, some new CJIS policies were created. There's some new things coming in summer this year, summer next year. We can just look to get ahead of these things and see those policies in place. All the sergeants, as we talked about, I think last month, we had this quarterly meeting we did with them. Part of this month, they were actually given a task to present to the Department of Administration regarding their leadership styles and perception of the Department's vision and goals. Make sure we're all operating on the same wavelength here. It went very, very well. Training wise, officers attended firearms training. We do that typically quarterly. Captain Pleasant Kill oversees that with a couple of our firearm instructors in the department. We've been working with y'all posting the district job openings. I haven't heard SRO may getting issued a phone. It's kind of done wording, but we had the flocky LPR system to lost plate readers. Part of this budget year, we also added, there's an LPR component for our dash cams that we added, just enhance that availability of catching stolen vehicles and, felons and such as we drive around the neighborhoods. So we looked at adding an LPR to Savannah Elementary. They also grab sex offenders as they pull in. Working with the ISD, especially at the time when we were trying to get that 15,000 money with them, we had to get an easement right and all that stuff with that. We're trying to figure out a different way to do this, and it became clear it was just use a vehicle. So we had the SRO, the white Dodge Charger, and so to make this work, we actually had the LPR system loaded on that car, and so on drop off, that car will be running outside the parking lot, and it will detect if it's a sex offender, and SRO may actually get a text message to that car into the parking lot, and we actually go stop that person from even getting into school. So we're not creating an issue. So we're work around that and just using technology to our benefit. Our bike unit was pretty active this month. They were activated for Halloween. They had candy and out for kids. There's no major, really no incidents at all, I think, with Halloween. Bike unit also attended their annual Highland Village, the Texas Fallen PD tribute event. It's one of the most successful bike events. They get together and do a race and do fallen officers. And then, of course, they've been working with Crossley and RPJ and everybody else in the building. It's a continuous thing. Report total calls was 3,153, 409 were dispatched, 2,744 were self-initiated. That's showing 87% of total calls being self-initiated, and that's a decrease of 21 total calls from last month. The department had 285 traffic contacts, with 83% of people being issued warnings. To date, we have processed 24,581 calls for service. You have your two typical reports as your community breakdowns and your monthly report in your packets. Your SRO report is also attached. Our new category here is our K9 unit progress. K9 handler Simmons has been working with several different K9 groups. Typically, I mentioned this in the past, several local agencies that get together from the group, do trainings weekly. We're really allowing her to see where she meshes. She's really between the Hickory Creek group and a Collin County Sheriff's Office group. So she wants to kind of bounce back and forth and get the most out of all of it. She's also continued her routine meetings with our K9 vendor, who's a retired Louisville K9 unit that created his business, who's our dog for us. He's loading her up at homework. Right now it's Fourth Amendment and search and seizure policies, and so she's back in the academy. That's 99% of K9 work is searching. So she's also finishing up our DEA agreement with getting our narcotic training unit with the dog. It's just a long process. We think the federal government is going to be that way. So she's also working on this, getting her items up, with leashes, collars, all these little things you need to be back to squad car in her office and things for the dog. But she's got a big list she's supposed to be sending me to start getting ordered. So January, she will probably be going with this report. She'll be going with Shane, our vendor, to Mississippi to pick out the dog. It's likely still a German short-haired pointer, but it may change depending on what they have there and what the experience of who she meshes with the dog. So I know Shane for a long time. He knows what I'm looking for, but I really don't want to now start type of policing. But German Shepherd Labs, some of those, that kind of nature would be what we're looking for with a GSP, obviously. So she'll basically be driving to Mississippi to meet with that vendor. And then once they pick the dog, she'll bring that back home. The dog will probably be with her in the car, but it won't be deployed for that bonding period, until she goes to handler school and is active at that point, which we're anticipating 1st of March. Then she goes to handler school in February. So that's where we are in K9. And the last I heard, so we budgeted that money for the K9 program, and we're actually working out something with another vendor he has, or that dog will likely be donated and be free. So they'll be saving us that $14,000, $15,000 that we budgeted to buy the dog. So hopefully all that works out the way it's supposed to, and we actually have a savings there. Community services, the radar trailer was placed at 1550 Artesia Boulevard, 92, roughly 0.5% of vehicles traveled underneath the speed limit. The average speed was about 24 miles an hour. The average violation was 32. The second half of the month, it was at Brown Thresher and Cherokee Rose in Savannah. About 91% of vehicles traveled underneath the speed limit. Average speed was only 19 miles an hour, and the average violation was 28. You have that report in your packet as well. Due to some of the changes in the district, our drive-off and kids live here. Community initially set up to do is it's all paused with those signs up. They are at the storage, and as soon as the maintenance person's chosen, and gets erected. National Night Out was held October 1st. The DEA drug take-back event was also held. As you saw on our social media, we had a coloring contest initiative. Those were actually just picked and got gift cards. So that was a pretty popular deal. We had a lot of submissions. And Monica's not here, but she should be like the next Bob Ross. Is how she can do that really good. There's a Jolly Coloring event scheduled for November 9th, which actually already passed us now. Normally do these like the first of the month, and I read these off. I feel like I'm going backwards. Then our Pancakes with Police event, which we've had the last couple of years, is scheduled on December 7th from 7 a.m. to 12:30. And that is just starting to advertise on social media now. Vehicle is pretty routine this month. We did take Unit 1801 as our oldest Tahoe, and all the Tahoes we come in replacing in the last couple of years. Instead of selling it off, we're seeking a way to maybe reuse that to some purpose. As you know, first this budget year, we added that detective spot by not doing the there's some movements. And so he was driving one of the 4 escapes we have, and then took away our training vehicle the officers using out of town. We don't have a marked unit out. So we just took that patrol unit, unmarked it, and actually got a steal the deal. And we paid $2,000 maybe to have an upfitter take all the markings off, all the lights off, and make it to a especially criminal investigations unit. And it has a cage in it, and Detective Holland, who the vehicle's assigned to, does a lot of warrant help with patrol when they're short staffed. He deals in just on his own warrants. And so now CID actually has a transport vehicle, but they didn't have that before. So that was a reuse of that car. It should give us a couple of 3 more years of use is what we're hoping for. Then critical point installations, it's the wireless uploads. I think Director Fuller, we talked about that recently. Basically what that is right now, if you see our vehicles running in the front parking lot, they're uploading video to our watch guard server. The antenna is on top of that building, and where we're parking our cars in the back, it doesn't reach that antenna. And so the officers have to leave the car running while it uploads. These critical points, the antenna doesn't matter anymore. As you're driving around, it's uploading the system for you. So they've all been completed. I think maybe just 1 car. So that should stop some of the cars running and things, especially getting into the winter months. Staffing, our 2 recruits in the academy are doing great. They're graduating in less than a month. No issues there at all. Obviously, we had our sergeant assessment where Sergeant Meyer was selected. Officer Cockrell under his intermediate peace officer license. As I talked about earlier, Captain O'Brien did submit her resignation, and there'd also be a chief. So that's the PD report. Do you have any questions?
Have we heard anything about the SRO payment from the school?
I have not, no.
Is there anything else we can do to address that?
Yeah, I can reach out to them again.
Chief, the portable flock cameras, are they more than the base flock cameras we have now?
They're about the same. We looked at that a while back. They actually have a new version out that we haven't done a whole lot of encryption. They have one that just is a cigarette lighter, put into the deck of the vehicle or something. But it was more than what we did with using our current dash cam systems, which actually the cool thing about, so we basically have 2 players. You have a watch guard, and then you have which one we have in cars? Vigilant, yeah. So that's the 2 main players of LPR data, and they're proprietary. They can hold their own stuff. Well, we have the flock already. Okay, that and that's what the static goals that we have throughout the communities. But the watch guard partners with the other system, and so now we get the best of both worlds. I've talked a lot today. So it was cheaper than going and buying actual more equipment. We already had that equipment in the car. We just added a software component for the LPR. So it was cheaper, and it gives us access to a whole other database of something our CID can use.
And the service is the same, the service expense.
Yeah, it's kind of apples on the cost, for sure.
Yeah, okay.
Any questions? I have a motion to approve the service report.
I'll make the motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Consider report regarding progress and design of the district administrative building.
Can you speak on this?
Yeah.
All right, so I threw this. I try to make it more plain language and replacing the past with a bunch of abbreviations and others understand, in my opinion. As you know, we have the OIC meetings. We had one today. Those will be moving to weekly meetings after Thanksgiving. We're getting to a point where you're making very quick decisions in this building day in and day out. This is getting very specific. We're beyond the big construction components. We're in the small things now. But so here's some notes that we had, obviously 2 since the last board meeting here. So quick notes, there's no safety issues presented. Big talk you heard in the past about CoServe and the easements we've had with HOA and all these things. CoServe has ran their power down for 382, that big utility box at the front of the building. It's going through its inspections, I think, next week. And then the week after that, it should have permanent power ran to the building. So all the temporary power they're running off the 724 building will be solid. Maybe I should have its own power to 700 building. With that, all the internal breakers are currently being installed. There's a lot of them in that building. Elevator installation is scheduled to begin mid-January. That's a little bit later than I think you were kind of told before. But a lot of that, they can't do anything until they have permanent power. All the inspections are done. The elevator company won't even come out. So they won't even schedule it. So because we haven't been able to schedule it without having permanent power, it's pushed it. So it doesn't affect anything at the building. It's kind of a standalone deal that another contractor is doing. Masonry is still in progress. They're currently on the second floor. The metal paneling, if you remember the renderings, that bluish panel color, it should be arriving tomorrow. They'll begin installing that next week. Inside the building, one side drywall is near completion. We're glad they've only done one side because we have found some plugs that need to be moved already based on the furniture, so we'll get to in a minute. So it's allowed them to do it cheap or nothing, really, just to do the pipe. Director Story, I know you're going to ask. So today in our meeting, I asked for our office as a superintendent, when can we use this parking lot? He basically told me when the building's done. That's his answer. A lot of the beams and things are obviously in the building, but now the doors are going in, and now there's all these little things. There's no place to really store it. So he's like, the short answer is when the building's done. So I'm probably going to getting months to tell you that's what I'm being told. Tape and bedding begins in mid-December. This is kind of the next processes as we end the year here internally. Yeah, the tape and bedding with the sheetrock, paint and the trim work begins, and then the flooring begins, and then once the flooring is done, they put the frame against for our drop tile seal. That's where all the lighting start coming. That's really start building up a tree building inside. There was some cost saving we've done just in the last few weeks. There's supposed to be a screen put around the HVAC system on the roof. I asked the contractors, is it not a cheaper option? It was like $6,000 or $7,000 for this little metal panel with different colors. And they said, you really can't even see it from the Savannah HOA side. You see it from Magnolia on the back side of the building. And so after some discussion, because we could just use some of the same the decking material they use and just paint it. And I was like, and we would have that material. I'm like, then do that. So we took the screen thing off and we'll just paint that to match the brick color. It's the same metal that the screen thing was with not paying $6,000, so $7,000 to do it. Fire suppression systems have been probably the biggest solve the last 2 weeks. And Aaron knows all about this. Early on in the building, I believe what happened was there was a chemical suppression system that was originally slated, and then it was taken out to save money. As you know, we have a big IT area in there. We have like our records rooms, and we're subject to record retention laws. And so the idea of having a true water system in there probably wasn't the best idea. But then I guess that's why they took it out. So this came back up again, and I had them quote the chemical system. Came back at $165,000, and I was like, no, we're not going to do that. So let's figure out another option. So now the second option, which is what we're going to go with, is called a double action system. I'm still waiting on final numbers, but it's supposed to be around $40,000 to $50,000. So what that is, and that will come out of construction contingency funds. It's not a change. It's not any more money from Virginia P. You already been advised of. So essentially, each of those 3 rooms has sprinkler pipes in them, but there is some kind of a lever system in those pipes where no water is sitting in those pipes in those rooms at any given time. For that water to release and come into that room, there must be a standalone fire in that particular room and be over 155 degrees. There's 2 sets that has to happen. The likelihood of that happening, you're stuck in that room probably already fried anyway. But if you have a fire in the break room, you're going to shoot sprinklers off in those rooms. So that was a way, because under the open record stuff with the Texas State Records Association, something or another, we have to take reasonable efforts to protect our records from water. Well, this is what I consider a reasonable effort without spending $165,000. So that's, like I said, I'm waiting on final quotes. Ross thinks it's $40,000 to $50,000. But once again, it's not us asking for money. That's going to come out of the construction contingency of the building. Landscaping's been reduced. RPJ was reviewing as we're entering some of that grading time, and by the next month or so, we'll start grading some of that dirt work in front of the building, as they don't need the backhoes and skid steers so much on that side. So they reduced a lot of landscaping. I did ask if they could put an elm tree up front, but it is Elm Ridge. So they're going to try to put one in there for us, but we cut that back by about $10,000 there. There was a little bit of a change order. This will come out of your design contingency. So again, not asking for money. The and Director Story and Director Perry know about, Director Bowling and Director Perry know about this. There was the original drop tile they were presenting with that was just terrible. You've seen them. I mean, it was cracking in the package. That's how bad it was. So we asked, what's a better option that's not like the best thing you have? And the best thing we have is like 45,000. And so we don't want to do that, obviously. So the other one that's it's a thicker material, doesn't crack as easy, but it's not the whole, they have all these, I didn't know that much about cement tile, honestly. They can interlock and all this stuff. There's no frame, wasn't even interlock. Anyway, long story short, 15,000 to make better cement tile. And that's the entire building being changed. Otherwise, we're going to be putting a ton of the cheap stuff and you're replacing it all the time. What's going to happen. So this was a way for future cost efforts to prevent that in the future. Just pay a little bit more now and get the right stuff. FF&E, the furniture, pictures, and equipment. This really should have started a long time ago. We are severely behind. I asked Director Patrons to walk with us. We walked room by room with RPGA and Kevin Matthew was there as well. No one has really sit there and went through the building to see what we need. And so that's where some of the movements and light switches and or plugins and things were happening because the desk, you get up here with the desk, you have to see what the plugins are going to be at, and no one had done that. So they put together like what the best world, this is what this would look like. We want furniture. They don't have a quote back to me yet. He's thinking next week. And that we really have to start there to say, are we going to use the old furniture? Are we going to go on new furniture? I will say that entire building is a gray tone, and nothing we currently have is going to match that. So I think in some of the millwork, which are the built-ins, that was popular, which we use the current ones we have. We'll try to eliminate them to match the gray new millwork. This one, I really want to fall short of the finish line here and trip over ourselves. So again, I can come to you and say here's how much I don't know. I know that I think it will be, the money's there for that, and I would suggest that we do this right the first time.
What about the timeline?
RPG, so we asked about that too, because I said they have been working with Holland Furniture because that's what they were kind of told to work with early on. And then it just fell apart and no one discussed it. And so I said, when you get a quote, do not go somewhere else and find me another cheaper option. So the Holland's really middle of the road. You don't want to go cheaper than that, but there's much more expensive options. She goes, but the biggest thing is, since we've already been with Holland and we have some idea of what we kind of needed just on our own looking at it, we can move faster with Holland than we can. Don't want to look at some other the best brand there is, I don't know. So their suggestion was to keep on this track, let them quote it out, spec it out, give some samples, and move from there. That's really what we have to do first before we can have a little discussion on what to do with furniture. So at least we know placements, we know what we generally want. There are some areas in that building that are like workstation areas. There are supposed to be 2 desks and things, and as we walk through this, we're like, we're never going to need 2 desks here. So how about we make like a committee table? So when you're having committee meetings, there's a round table to do that. And so there's as we walked, we took a lot of stuff out, and then some things we took out and changed, so we'll see what it comes back at. So the current plan is that, kind of the gray tone furniture, the gray desk, we have a slate blue chairs that kind of match up our blue and gray themes throughout that building. So when we get that quote back, we can pop that up, I guess, probably with y'all to the board, how are you going to do that? But we'll need to move fast. So as soon as we get a quote, we need to jump on it. We'll make a decision on what we're going to do. We wait 3 days every time. The building will be completed, but we won't be in the building.
So timeline.
Ross said we should have started this 2 or 3 months ago.
Right. But well, I guess more specifically, is this going to push us back a month or 2, or is it?
It's honestly until you get the quote, and then we know exactly what we want. It's too early for me to tell you that. Okay. The design consultants are putting all that together to see what's currently here in the States, what's going to be going over, shipping, all those things. I still don't know enough to give you an answer yet. So hopefully by next week I have some sort of answer and we can discuss it and make a decision. But like I said, I think you said in the meeting, you might ask Ross, what point should we have full throttle on this? And he said 2 months ago. So we need to move quick.
We've got another meeting with them this coming week anyway, so.
Yeah, the week after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Do you want to get authority from the board to make that decision before the next meeting? Or do you want to, does the board want to give somebody to make that, give that authority so they can make a decision and not wait? No, I'm saying for this furniture, if they come back with this quote, and what they're saying is that Brandon was saying, or Chico was saying, we need to act on it. And I'm saying
Budgetary, like approve an amount.
Yeah, either that or say, these 2 board members can make the decision on what's going to be done.
What's budgeted?
My understanding, working with plans is with the reserves and things, you're around what do we come up with? Available for FF&E furniture. The swag and stuff comes out of this line. I think it was 1.2 or something.
Yeah.
More than we'll probably need. I think furniture probably, if we read the entire thing, I think when I saw a little quote from RPGA, when we were looking at using, there's really like 4 desks we were actually going to try to reuse, I guess. It was sitting around 278. So I imagine 400-ish probably is probably your around number for entire everything new. But again, I'm guessing. I'm not a furniture expert by any information, but 350 to 400, I imagine. But that 1.2, that's after your construction. This is the building's done. This is what we have left to finish this project off. And that's why.
When will you know about your quote?
Today he told me he would hope next week.
Okay.
And so we just met last Thursday. And so that is an undertaking to go all these items to figure that out. So we're 1 week ahead. So hopefully next day. It's a holiday, so not be long. But there really balls in there to give us some numbers back.
I would make a motion to allow Mike and I, we've been involved with the cross-line meetings anyway, to be able to make a decision on the FF&E costs once we get a budget, so we don't have to call a special meeting on that.
Not to exceed.
400?
Chief? Is that enough?
I think that'll do it.
Okay.
I mean, I think as long as it's within budget.
Sounds like a lot of money, but okay.
Yeah.
It's a 20,000 square foot building.
Okay.
Offices.
Yeah, I feel better that you slapped the max cost on that.
Do I have a second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Keith, that seconded? Okay, perfect, thank you.
Along that same lines, when the building started, the appliances in the building were said to be only furnished. And so I asked Crossland they have, because we're going to get a little better cheap pricing than we are because they're these big contracts. They had most of it done today. They're missing like the refrigerator, I believe. He's expecting it to be 20,000 or less. Because you'll have like your ice pickers, you'll go from small fridges for like Dallas Council area, the big fridge in the break room, the dishwashers. But that will be out of that money we have as well.
Kitchen?
There's a break room that has a dishwasher, an ice maker, and a refrigerator, and a microwave. That's
Something to cook with?
No, I don't think we will. So
It's all commercial.
we're going to put a big smoke around the back.
It's all commercial grade. It's not like the Home Depot
Well,
stuff.
Residential.
We're not going commercial.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Much that will be used. I mean, we've used residential for 6 years now and been okay.
Yeah.
So I'd rather replace the $800 refrigerator 1 or 2 times than buy them.
That's
our money.
Yeah.
So that will be coming as well. And so that's something that's, again, need to run on. Because that makes the millwork might change. So they're trying to get sizing for the millwork of the cabinets, and they're already having to change for the ice maker because it wasn't spec for the ice maker, right? You need an ice maker because you're gonna have a bench, you have all these things, and you can't be in the refrigerator ice maker for these things. So that's again something that I guess I can get with you all and let Tom tell me to pull the trigger on that too, because they have a guy waiting on us to make that decision to do their millwork. This is
Another motion, Jonathan.
I mean, probably. I mean, I guess it just depends on if that is something that Brandon can make the decision on, or if the board wants to make a decision on. Obviously, the furniture was a very pricey item, so that's
$20,000 for appliances.
I mean, if it's under the, I mean, if it's in the budget of the original building, then I don't think that necessitates,
Okay.
more board approval. But the furniture, the amount of money, the fact that it was more than what, was projected, that's why I wanted more authority on that one.
Yeah. Okay.
I just make a motion to delegate that to the same to the $20,000 max.
Okay.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
So what I'll do when I get stuff back, I'll send all emails.
We'll try on the 20K, right?
I'm getting told across on that. It's like whirlpool stuff. It's nothing crazy here. All right, just to keep you all updated on where our contingency funds are. Currently, your construction contingency is at $214,995.87. That's prior to that fire suppression cost that we're thinking around $40,000-$50,000, which we have on a quote back. It's important that we watch that and not go with it, because if they go through here and find a beam that wasn't right or need to fix something, that's where that's coming out. before we exceed our GEP. We don't want to go over the GEP. So we need to leave that alone, just let Crossland have that money. The design contingencies they're down to $7,787 now. And I don't know why that's so far down, and that was after the ceiling tile upgrade, so that was in there. I asked them, I said, we get to a point where that's going to be a problem. We're at this stage in the building, unless we walk into some different carpets, there shouldn't be a problem. I don't see that happening. So, should be fine on all that. And of course, whatever's left over, other contingencies we get back from the projects. So the goal is to come back with some money left over. And then lastly, you have your most recent photographs that you can look at. Of course, it's really looking at the building now. So, as I mentioned, we finished the job. It'll be super much. Very quick project.
And thank you for pinch hitting on that. That was great.
Nice job. So I have a motion to approve the project report.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 12, consider adoption of order establishing policies regarding painting of home addresses on district curb.
Okay, we talked about this at the last meeting, and the agenda item was asked for, and so I put together the resolution for the curb painting. The idea here is that, for safety purposes, that helps with emergency services for them to be able to identify house numbers. At the same time, the district worries about the aesthetics of the resident or the community, and so we wanted to make sure and say, allow for it, but black and white, no logos, no school mascots, everything that you kind of see, just to make sure that it looks uniform and doesn't clutter up everything. And so I put this together with some provisions. I know Mr. Director Story added some things with regard to maintenance, and then also, we kind of want to figure out that he also suggested an exhibit that gives an example of what it should look like. And so I'm kind of looking for you guys, or direction from you guys, on how big the numbers should be or wide, so we can work together to have an exhibit done to show that. I'm thinking, obviously I think we all have an idea of what the size should be. But I wasn't sure about that. So we need to look at that, but I think we can add on that exhibit after if you approve this resolution tonight. I think we all have an idea about what those dimensions look like.
Do you want me to go get like a better picture of some of them for you?
Yeah,
Like,
that'd be nice. I was trying to search online. There's all just sorts of different.
I did the same thing. Yeah,
I just couldn't find anything that I was really happy with. So
What I would do is I'd get somebody to hold a ruler when you take the picture. This way here you can get an idea of what the letter size is.
Okay.
we can just all go.
I think you can just draw it out, right?
Yeah, I think so too. And so if you do that, at least you kind of see it, what those look like there, just kind of add that on as an exhibit. We're not going to say it has to be exactly or sufficiently the same dimensions.
Yeah.
It's mostly to keep them from doing crazy stuff.
Yeah, I think that's the idea. So if you're going to do it, we want to make sure that it's done neatly and doesn't piss anybody off, for use of it. You know what I mean? Just it looks fine and it's not going to upset anybody.
Do we need to put anything in there about at resident expense or new approval required, or?
I
think it's covered in section 2. It allows the owner to paint the.
Yeah, I think that I'll do whatever obviously you guys want, but thought if we would try to demonstrate this, that's kind of a cost that you ask to be able to do it. I think if somebody does it and it doesn't look right, then we contact them to try to work out something to fix it. I know Arrowbrooke residents were doing it already, but a little bit, and so this is just an effort to kind of get a little bit of control over that. But we can do that. I think the idea is to give the residents a little bit of a leeway here to go ahead and do it if they want. And if it does become an issue, then we can step in.
Do we want to specify that it needs to be the reflective white? There's actually a special reflective white paint for stuff like this, actually.
Yeah.
Rather than just white paint.
Yeah, we can. I guess it's just.
And the only reason I bring that up is because if you're driving at night, the reflective white's going to show better than just regular white will when you're trying to find a home address.
I guess it just depends on how much you want to really get in.
Finally tailor it. The objective here was just to make sure it's,
Yeah, it's better than what we have, right?
yeah, I would want mine reflective.
Yeah.
I'm okay with this the way it is. It gives us some consequence if they do something objectionable. Thoughts, questions, motions?
The only thing I would add is just something about resident expense or something like that. So it's very clear that like you're not going to come to us and we don't have a curb painting system or anything, right?
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah, the idea is that whatever's done is at the residents.
Exactly.
You may paint your curbs at your expense.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
I can add that.
But yeah, I was good with everything else.
To have a motion pending that one modification to approve this resolution.
I think it's two modifications. There's that, and then there's the exhibit that I think Felicia was going to work on. So 2 items.
And we'll add an example.
And I'll make a motion to press forward with this pending those 2 changes.
Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 13, discuss ongoing traffic studies for Artesia and other district communities.
I'm not sure where we are on, some of that. And so I think we need to, table this for another month to make sure that we're getting the traffic study proposals that we were going to get.
Yes.
Well, were we further along in Artesia? Wasn't that close to approval?
I mean, you guys had approved last month. You approved doing a traffic study for the crosswalk that's south of the Artesia Bridge to determine whether or not to move that. I think further south was that, but I'm not sure if we ever got that proposal and signed somebody up to do that. So I think we need to figure out where that is. If you guys approved doing it, we just need to get the mechanism in to have it done.
This is on the early to-do list for the new GM, and hopefully we'll have one in place sooner than later. I'm okay with tabling it. Can we vote on that?
If you want to, you can. If it's not.
14, discussion and consideration of adoption rules and regulations for Arrowbrooke Park and use of park.
Yes, after the last meeting, we had obviously talked about issues at the park, parties and trash and loud parties. And so I sent out, a copy of the orders you had in place, the order you had in place for use of district property. But then I also sent you some rules and regulations from a park for a different district, that they've adopted to help regulate and control the use of the park. So, I open up the floor to you guys on what you want to do here, what you want to incorporate. You want to have a committee look at it and decide what rules to put in there. So, it's completely up to the board on how they want to address this.
Didn't we have a Parks Committee, Parks and Rec Committee? I thought we already approved that.
I don't think we ever did. We talked about it.
We did talk about it.
I feel like this is probably you, so it's in your backyard.
I've been over there like everything.
I'm not sure if this is ready to vote on.
Yeah,
No, I think it was just, this is the first time it's been on the agenda to kind of bring it to the board.
Cold weather has helped the situation.
No more big blowouts.
No, since the cold weather is coming. I can work on it. December 16th is when you can call me.
But, I think, to your point, the cold weather, you're not going to have big big parties out there. But I think, some of the rules relating to the bathrooms and cleanliness of it and parties, I think, all of that can be addressed here. We just want to get a couple directors to go through some of this and put it together and then present it to the board.
I'll help you red light it if you want.
Jonathan, I just had a question. How are we gonna enforce this again? I remember.
Yeah, well,
we discussed it.
We are allowed to adopt rules and regulations for district property. And so we have the order in place that I know that the PD worked on with the magistrate as far as rules for the district property and use of district property. And so that's really just expanding on that to talk about what you can and can't do at the park. And so we put this in place. Then, obviously, put the expert over there, but they'd be able to enforce whatever rules we put in place. And then you would work with the magistrate to make sure that that's something that they're comfortable prosecuting.
Looks like one of the changes is a fine. You put a fine on the example you gave us.
Yeah.
So first we talk and if necessary, we anything else. Yeah. Okay.
So if you guys want to make a motion to authorize Brandon and Felicia to work on this and then come back to the board with their recommendation.
Yes. Yeah. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consider signage in Arrowbrooke.
I think we left this to the GM. And so I think this is something when we get the new GM in place, we have him put the plan together for us. That's what we'd asked for last month under the circumstances.
Yeah, this is another
Unfortunately, we don't have
table.
that plan.
This is another table item. We're okay to table one.
Has Bucky at least gotten the ones up that we're taking down?
Most of them. He's still got a couple we had to find. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I make a motion to table this and move on to 16.
Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 16. Consider taking any action necessary regarding sidewalk and other traffic signage along Harper Road next to Rushing Middle School. Okay, so that's traffic study. That's another one. That's what we talked about. Jonathan and I went through this ahead of time. There's a few that kind of lumped in together. I think this one gets tabled too.
I think I saw something Bucky had painted the crosswalks here, right? Or some of the crosswalks.
On Palestine and what's that other road? That was done early on because we were able to do that. So these aren't crosswalks across Artesia. That has to be studied because these are crosswalks where there was already curb cutouts. It was a no-brainer, dude, and it helped because they stop behind it and the kids can cross, and that's where we saw that. Those are the roads that run north and south between First Street and Harper. There's two north-south roads, and those have been painted in for a while.
So this is saying action necessary regarding sidewalk and other traffic signage back there along Harper, right? So what do we still need to do? We talked about moving the schools.
Yes, and that's not an easy one, right? Because we have to get a traffic study this is a bigger project. This isn't just simply let's put up signs and stuff. It's a project.
I think that's working with the school also to arguably the authority to establish school zones and put school zones is on them. And so the idea is we'll be working with them on what we want to do. There's also discussion on, I think the curve that's to the east of the amenity center right there. Like it curves up to the east. So there was talk about that as well as one of the areas to maybe address crossings or for kids crossings. I think that was part of it as well.
Yes, I make a motion to table this. I think we need to revisit it with whoever the new GM is.
Yeah. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Report from Trident Consulting Group.
Hi, good evening. I'm Doris, representing Triton.
Hi, Doris.
I just wanted to let you all know that the action items for today would just be to consider the the proposed for the rate adjustment or the amendment. Let's see. Triton has adjusted our rates in the past. I think that was back in 2021. The average increase usually is 7%, and the new rate would be effective January 1st of 2025. And if you have any questions.
I think Megan emailed that like last week, so I looked at that. Do we vote on that or?
Yeah, if they are asking for an increase in their rates, then that is, a change to the contract. So that would be something that we would vote on to approve.
What was the delta on that again?
The delta on that? I can look into that and give you an answer.
Yeah, I'm looking for the email. I don't have it in front of me.
Okay. Do you want it? Well, that's okay.
And, they're looking for these to begin January 1st. And so if you did want more information and, they could vote to accept it. We're uncomfortable tonight.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see this spelled out a little bit better. She's giving the new rates. I like to see the old rates.
Yeah.
So you'd like to see the old rates?
Yeah.
I think, yeah, maybe she'll be here next month and we can.
A little better, what has our bill been historically? What's it projected to be? Something like that.
Absolutely. We can definitely do that.
It's hard to get approved if it's reasonable.
Yeah.
But we just want to know what we're approving.
Of course.
Mm.
That's understandable. Any other questions?
Status of acts of the board.
Oh, that was referring to consider the resident information page, and we're making adjustments to that, to the website.
I think Scott can speak to some of that.
Megan was going to get with you on some verbiage on the Ask the Board, updated Ask the Board. Has she reached out to you yet, Jonathan?
No, she hasn't. So I can reach out to her.
Okay. Yeah, Megan said she's going to work on some verbiage on that and tie in with you for approval of that, for that update. So I didn't know if she'd reach out to you on that. I'm just kind of glancing through the report to see if there's some questions on anything else.
Yeah, I can't get that to open here for some reason.
Just put Megan in the search bar. Mine popped right up.
No, I don't really have any additional questions. So do you know how many outstanding requests we have in our tracker right now?
In your tracker right now?
Yeah.
Let's see. I just looked. Let me see. Thank you. 20. We received 23 new tickets, and that's what's sitting.
There's 6 still open.
There's 6 still open?
Yeah. Going back to the 19th. It's only 2 days that they have processed.
Okay. Thank you. I would make a motion to approve the Triton communication report.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
But not the rates, correct?
Not the rates.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you, board.
Thank you. 18, discussion on use of district intellectual property.
So I've been talking with an intellectual property attorney. We've been trying to connect on this because I've done this before, but it's been a number of years. I've never done it for a public entity. And so I'm trying to get her to talk to her about the benefits to the district and what protections can we put in place. Honestly, it's not been on the top of my to-do list, but we are going to be focusing on this for the next meeting.
It's not a big expense.
I haven't incurred really anything yet, but
but we're not, it won't be to protect our intellectual property. It's a copyright or something.
Yeah, you file it with the trademark and patent office, it has to be a distinct logo used for a specific purpose. a service. Or, there could be a company that called Infinity that does computer work, and there could be Infinity that makes bread. And that's okay because it's two separate fields. Now, if it's a more generally used term like Apple can't be used for anything else now because it's such a big brand market. So with your, sorry, I'm going off the rails here, but I think for you, it's just the logo and the specific use of the district. I think that's not going to be a huge expense.
The name, when we selected the name, and I think I was on the board, but they talked about how many, there are other Elm Ridges, but they were, remember that?
It was a town. I think it was a small town.
Yeah.
That was it. I'm not as concerned about the name. It's really like if you're talking about using the logo for non-district purposes.
Should be protected.
Then we, I don't think it's going to cost that much, just the application of the trademark office.
Okay, but no action here. We just table it?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion to table this. We'll revisit it next month.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consider committee reports and any appropriate action. Communications?
So the big thing on communications was really ask the board, and then just making sure that the policy update happened. Policy updates and things happened on the website, like we had talked about. We didn't have much that we discussed in the last meeting, actually.
Law enforcement, we haven't met. Probably need to. First quarter. Yes. Okay. Finance.
We were waiting on Rob to get back to us for the date. This one.
So
I think we proposed some sample dates. It fizzled out, and then I think now with all we've got cooking and the holidays, we may have to pump the brakes until the first of the year.
we'll look at
Yeah.
first quarter. There's a lot depending on this new hire. Okay. Okay. No action.
I will say the one other thing we discussed is putting building updates on communications. So where we're at with the builder.
Okay.
So that'll be upcoming.
That's great. That's great. Item 20, consider status of City of Aubrey.
Yeah, so the non-suit was signed 2 days ago by the judge. So the case has been non-suited and dismissed with prejudice, made that brought again. So as Chief Slaughter mentioned, the Paloma Creek districts did approve their fire plans, so they will be going to Little Elm on December 1st. But the lawsuit itself is now been over.
So we can be friends again.
Yes, yes.
We can talk.
Yes, yes. So that's the update on that. So we will not be on the agenda again.
So when can we move forward with discussions then for future services?
Yeah, I think that, yes.
Do we need a motion for that?
No, I think that, we do need to get, proposals or decide what we're going to do. And so I think that we need to start thinking about that. And the next meeting we'll have an agenda item to
put it on the agenda.
Do that because of the process with the TCEQ. We obviously want to get started on that. So we need whatever requirements we need to for the next election.
We want to see those numbers, right?
Yes, yes. He did send it to me yesterday. I just haven't had a chance to look at it. So, but yeah, I think next month for the agenda, we'll have that specific topic and talk about moving forward.
Okay.
Anything to vote on this one?
No, sir.
Okay. Great. 21, status of purchase contract with the Putt and Play.
Yeah, from what I was told, the closing is scheduled for the week of the 9th, December 9th. And so they're just working towards that.
Saw those emails today that it is on track. They were a little bit.
That's what they're telling me.
Okay.
So,
okay. I just read them one time and I was like, okay, it's not definitive, but maybe I need to read it again. Okay.
No, they talked about the the December 15th was a talked about date, but that's a Sunday. So they're saying the week before.
Move it up.
To that, yeah.
Well, we're all in favor of that.
It's not done until it's done, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's not done until the-
Opposed and funded. Okay. 23, considered status of district administrative positions.
So, Mr. President, I would suggest that for item number 22, and then going back to the engineering reports of item number 5, that the board go into closed session under 551071 and 551074 of the Texas Government Code.
A motion to go into executive session.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Is it that much? Years? Okay.
Honestly,
That's what I wondered. Thank you guys for sticking with us.
I have a motion to come out of executive session.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to reopen the engineer's report, section E5.
Do I have a motion to reopen the engineer's report?
I already made the
Oh,
motion.
no, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the $50,000 to, was it for the here.
Specialty Land Services LLC for the easement acquisition.
Yes,
Up to.
up to 50,000.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'd like to make a motion to close the engineer's report.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Discuss December meeting date and location.
So you guys are kind of in the clear on this one because the way it works out in December, because it'll be the 19th, which I think, should be okay, but let me know if it's not. But, we have a lot more districts that are meeting the week of Christmas that we're having to reschedule. But I think, as long as the 19th works for you guys, then
And this location's not available on the 19th.
that's right. So
Got the new building.
Have it at Savannah.
Parking lot.
we could have it at Savannah, yes.
And let's just do that then.
Yeah.
Make a motion to have the December meeting at the Savannah Clubhouse
On the 19th.
on the 19th.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye, I'm sorry. I am for, not opposed.
Aye.
Specifically.
Discuss and approve future agenda items.
Anything else other than what we've already talked about?
Yeah, we were discussing last month about the new truck, remember? And there was a different truck, and we talked to Bucky a little bit about that. So we just maybe need to follow up on that.
I guess the first thing, Lynn, do you know if the truck's been purchased?
No.
I was just, because we had approved it. Did you know if the truck's been purchased or if there's a contract for the new?
No.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, that could be an agenda.
Yeah.
That could be agenda item for next month then.
Depending on,
Okay.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make the motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.